Hello my friends, welcome to JC Bass Fishing Channel. Today we're going to be talking about my 5 setups for summertime offshore bass fishing. Stay tuned. Alright my friends, welcome back to JC Bass Fishing Channel. Before I get started, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to this channel. If you are one of my subscribers, thank you for continuing following my channel and supporting what I'm trying to do. So we're talking about summertime. Very hot. A lot of the fish are going to move to deeper water. We're talking ledges, we're talking rocky points, we're talking primary points, we're talking brush piles. So my 5 search and fishing setups for bass offshore are going to be the following. My first one is a crankbait. And I'm going to be using a crankbait that is going to go between 15 to 20 feet. That's why the depth that I'm going to be fishing. I'm going to use this on ledges, and I'm also going to use this crankbait on brush piles. Now, depending on the depth of the brush pile, I'm not going to cast it right on top of them. I'm going to cast to the sides of the brush piles to see if I can get a reaction bite. If I decide to cast a crankbait on top of a brush pile, I have to use a crankbait that is going to go to the depth of the tip of that brush pile, so I don't get hung up in the brush pile every time I cast. So give you a quick example. If I'm casting to a brush pile that is at 20 feet and the brush pile tip, the highest tip, is at 15, then I'm going to cast a crankbait that the deepest depth they will go is around 15. So I want to hit the tip of the brush pile, but I don't want to get any lower than that because I know I'm going to get hung up. So that will generate a reaction bite. And this is a very good search lure also for ledges. If you have bass on ledges, this is a very good search bait to catch them on the ledges. If I don't get any reaction when it comes to that, then my second is gonna be a deep spinnerbait. 1 blade or 2 blades. Make sure that I get down there. This one is a 1 ounce spinnerbait, and I'm casting this on a 7.3 medium heavy. You can use also a heavy rod, but I'm using a medium heavy because I get better feeling when I'm using it. The same way I'm going to cast, the same way I'm using the crankbait is the same way I'm going to use the spinnerbait. I'm going to cast to the sides of the brush pile. I'm also going to cast right on top of that point, and I'm also going to cast right on top of that ledge and bring it back slowly. Try to keep as much contact to the ground with the spinnerbait. You want to keep a lot of contact with the ground. So in order to do that, you got to slow your retrieve. So that's why I'm using this reel. It's a cheap reel, but it does the job very good. It's a 5.6.1 reel. You can't barely find them anymore, but it gives me the speed that I need to keep contact with the spinnerbait down in the ground, and this should generate some good bites. Right? My next one, number 3, is going to be a Swimbait. You know, you can use an underspin, you can use a regular one, you can use, you know, whatever you feel that is going to be working for you. And this one I'm using another 7.3 medium heavy with I believe this one is 14-pound fluorocarbon, and same thing. This one This one, I'm gonna try to keep it at the depth that I see the fish at. So if the fish are all the way to the bottom, I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom. And if the fish are, let's say I'm fishing at 15 feet and the fish that I found are at 10, I'm gonna count it down to about 10 feet, and then I'm gonna start my retrieve and try to keep it at that depth so that way I can generate some bites. So my number 3 is a swim bait. Now let's say the fish are not very active, they're not reacting to moving baits, so then I'm going to go to the modified Texas rig big worm. And in this case, as everybody already knows, plum color, 10.5 inch zoom monster worm with 3/8 bobber stopper and 7:3:1 ratio with 17-pound fluorocarbon, because now I'm going to be casting right in the middle of that brush pile, and I'm going to be bringing this very slow through the brush pile to generate bites. Same thing when I use this in the ledges. I'm going to cast this right to the ledge or a point, and I'm going to drag it or hop it depending on how the fish react to it. Most likely you're going to be dragging it, and that's gonna, when you drag it, it's gonna generate a lot of movement in this tail, which is gonna get their attention, and you're gonna generate bites. So number 4 is the Texas rig monster worm. And last but not least, modifying jig. You know, jig is always gonna generate a bite, especially if you're using the jig on a point that has rock. This time of the year, I use green pumpkin with blue and orange, just to so I can mimic a little bit the bluegill. It also will mimic some crawdads. And in this case, I'm using a heavy rod with 17-pound fluorocarbon and a 6:1 ratio reel. And just the same thing like you do with the Texas rig worm. You're gonna cast it out there, you're gonna hop it a little bit, you're gonna drag it a little bit, and that way you can identify how you can generate a bite. If you generate the bites dragging, then that means from that bite on, keep on dragging it. If you generate the bite hopping it, then that means you're gonna be casting out there and you're gonna hop it, you know, until the bite stop, or until the fish stop biting, and you got to come up with another way to catch them. But number 5 is the jig. Now, I said last but not least because I also like to use a heavy shaky head when I fish offshore. And what I do is, if the Texas rig is not generating the bites that I would like to get, then I change this Texas rig and I use a heavy shaky head with a straight tail monster worm, usually green pumpkin or June bug or black and blue, and do the same thing that I'll do with the straight tail, I mean with the monster Texas rig. I just go ahead and drag it or slowly hop it to generate bites. So those are the two, and this one, the Texas rig and the heavy shaky head, are the ones that I switch back and forth if I need to do that. Other than that, if I don't have to do it and one of them is generating more bites than the other one, then I stick to only one, and that's why I didn't show you a setup, but I can talk about it. So those are my 5+1 setups for offshore during the summertime. I hope these setups can help some of you guys out there. Like I said, we're fishing offshore, so we're looking into, you know, primary points, rocky points, ledges that are hard surface ledges, or ledges that have some some timber or lay down around them, and brush piles between 15 to 20 feet, or you can go as deep as 25 feet, or you can come up to about 12. So it all depends where you find the fish. That's going to determine the depth that you're going to be fishing, but most likely it's going to be between 15 to 20 feet. So hopefully this can help some of you guys out there to catch some fish and enjoy some time out there in the waters. Take care of yourself. Make sure you hydrate when you're out there in summertime because it's hot. Tight lines.